Well, hello, everybody. Today we have with us Gabrielle Summe, and Gabe is the Kenton County Clerk and responsible for the local election and our elections here coming up in November. Gabe, thanks for coming back and talking with us.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a crucial time, and this is great information to get out to people with all the deadlines coming up. And hope everybody can hear me.
Yes, absolutely. And a
Good.
lot going on. You've been working through this through the primary and now dealing with it, getting ready for the November election. There are a couple of ways that people can vote. But before we get to those few areas, I know that because of COVID, there are also some challenges you've had to deal with in getting through this. But maybe you could speak to that first, and then we'll talk about the ways that people can actually vote this election.
Well, COVID has just generally been difficult for any clerk's office, mine, just because we normally have two physical offices and one was closed because of COVID and now is being updated so that it can be reopened. But besides the lines, and lines are because, well, not only are we doing business like normal, but you have to keep people 6 feet apart. And that's going to kind of happen with this election. So starting next week, when we have early voting, you're going to have lines everywhere. It's a presidential election. That was going to be a norm anyway. Now we have to add on to the fact that you can only have so many people, going to be able to enter my office. There's going to be a distance. So that is challenging, keeping my staff safe, keeping voters safe, as well as anybody else who's walking through these doors to do other business, whether it's here or at the Independent Senior Center.
And kudos to your team for working through this. I know that pulling down to one location is tough enough, and making that change. But let's get into the election itself. Upcoming, you've got a couple of different ways that we can all vote. Let me walk through those with us.
Okay. Well, the first one, of course, is right now the deadline for anybody who would want a ballot to be mailed to them. That portal closes this Friday, October the 9th at 11:59 p.m. So right now, the portal's been open since August, and we are cranking through those ballots. We've already had over 20,000 requests, and we have whatever we've received is already in the mail. So I'm encouraging people who've taken that option to get their ballots done and put them back in the mail to me. So that's option one. But that deadline is, again, October 9th. And so please take the time to do it now, if so, because if there's anything that's a mistake, like your date of birth doesn't match, or there's a social security, or you've changed your address, that's gonna need to be fixed before you can use the portal. Now, if you do the mail-in, of course, postage is prepaid. That's great for everyone. But if people aren't comfortable with that, or they're running close to time, they need to be able to drop it off. So there are currently, and will be some more in the future, but for right now, we have a drop box outside of 1840 Simon Kenton Way. And there's one actually inside my voter registration office. There's currently two out at the Independence Courthouse. I have one in the foyer, or in the front part of the building. And then there's one in the very back, which would be for after hours. People can drive up there. It's at the top of the ramp. With the construction, I appreciate that people have been a little confused because it's hard to get to the back of the building, but it's at the top of the ramp right near the door to the auto. And so they can drop that off. Those are being picked up every day, and we're processing them as quickly as we can. The other place that will be available is on October the 13th. The Independent Senior Center will also have a drop box there, so people can also bring things to that location as well. So, you ready for number two?
Well,
Any questions?
That one too. So when you mail in, someone wants to have a mail-in ballot, you send it to the home, they fill it out, they can either drop it off or they can mail it back. And then the Covington Government Center, the Kenton County Government Center at 1847 Kenton Way has the drop box outside, as well as one inside. And then the historic Kenton County Courthouse, which is under construction, you've got drop boxes there as well. So they can do that and or put it in the mail. Those are the options for them.
Right. And the thing is anybody using the mail-in, the minute we scan them to go into the mail, the voter has done this through govoteky.com. They can track their ballot. They can track when I put it in the mail, and when they mail it back to me, they'll be able to see when I've received it. So that's really important, that people can track what's going on with their ballots.
Great. So yeah, let's go on to the second option.
Okay, so the second option, of course, is now early in-person voting. Don't need to make an appointment. There's no excuse needed. That starts October the 13th for the whole state. Now, other counties have started this earlier, but with planning and everything like that, I believe Boone, Campbell, and myself are all starting on October the 13th. That means that starting that day, you just walk in, have your ID, you'll be able to vote, and you'll be actually be voting in person, meaning your ballot will go into a scanner like you would like election day. That's really important for a lot of people, so I want to let them know. I only recommend that they try not to come at the normal times people come, which is really early in the morning, around lunchtime or right before we close, because that's going to mean that all those other people who are coming at those times will create lines. Again, can't stress enough that there are going to be lines, because this ballot, besides being presidential, has 2 constitutional amendments. One of them has 500 words on it. I have those on my website. Please go look at them and read them so that you are prepared for your vote. The other thing is we have a lot of nonpartisan races, so people should take the time to look at those things. But that being said, we are open every day in 2 locations, starting at 7:30 and to 4 every day, Monday through Friday, at the 1840 Simon Kenton Way and the Independent Senior Center. And there's plenty of parking in both locations. We have 3 Saturdays available, starting October the 17th, the 24th, and the 31st. Those locations will also be open from 9 to 2. So that will be really important for people to take that opportunity. And just have your ID ready, be prepared to vote. We still have straight ticket voting in Kentucky, but remember, it won't take care of your nonpartisan people. So be prepared for when you're looking at your city races who you need to vote for. And that, I think, it's hard to gauge how many people will walk through our doors. But if you need a little extra time, or you feel like, election day might be too chaotic, then I would recommend that early voting option.
Great. So you've got two options, and then now I have it more traditional on election day.
Yes, so E-Day, election day. So that's still, of course, November the 3rd, where polls are open from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. But unlike our normal setup, we try to get as close to normal as possible for election day. I usually have 105 precincts, and they're usually physically in 50 polling locations. We've already been combining precincts over the years. But due to COVID, and having a large amount of mail-in ballots, a lot of walk-in traffic, I've had to reserve a certain amount of my equipment. So I couldn't open all of my polling locations. A lot of people kept saying, well, you have plenty of poll workers. Yeah, but I couldn't open all of them because I needed enough equipment. So based on the equipment available, we have 23 locations, still 105 precincts, but 23 polling locations. So we minimize that impact for the voter, and that means that you're going to likely go in what we call city centers, someplace that is within your city boundaries, and the counties are a little different. So on our website, again, we have a link, and also thanks to the fiscal court, we were able to send out this awesome how to vote postcard. On there is a link that allows people to go in and say, this is where I used to vote, and this is where I'm going to vote on election day. And if anybody has questions, just call the office, 392-1620, and we could direct people where to vote on that day.
Excellent. And what would it look differently? Is there any different way other than being socially distanced on actual election day, Gabe, for people who would go to those potentially new locations?
No. So again, lines, anticipating lines. If we get enough pressure off of it because of early voting, that's great. I still traditionally would, if during COVID, if you're able to go at a different traditional time than you normally would go, that would be very helpful. Again, if you're in line at 6 o'clock in the evening, you're going to be able to vote, no matter how long it takes before that person walks through the door. But the key is that take the opportunity for these other options prior to election day. But election day is going to look the same. The only difference is when you walk into a facility, and I constantly use Villa Hills because they've already have 5 precincts, but they've been voting in the same location for years, all 5 precincts. There won't be 5 different tables. There's just going to be a table for clerks, a table for them to get their ballots, an area for people to vote, and then the machines will be utilized as they're walking out the door. So kind of for every location, so that people really aren't crossing paths, they're going to kind of come in like a U, come in this way and walk out the other side. so that we can control the crowd, we can control how people are mingling, and have an opportunity to wipe down things as we go along to make sure everyone's
Fantastic.
safe.
Well, so you've got 3 options, a big deadline coming up Friday for anyone who needs to get a mail-in, and that's very clear on your website, I believe, that and there's no problem. You don't have to be medically, have a medical issue or what have you. You can get that mail-in ballot because of COVID, right? And then we've got early voting, and then we also have traditional voting on election day.
And I have a lot of people who don't have computers. So one of the things that was great about the mailer, and again, thank you for fiscal court helping me get that out, is that people are calling, and that's fine. We can help them through the portal, but they do need to have a Kentucky driver's license for us to do that. If you don't have a Kentucky driver's license, if it's expired or you haven't updated your address, that is not going to keep you from voting. It's just proving who you are. So even if you've moved here from Ohio, you don't have a Kentucky driver's license and you want to do the mail-in, as long as you have an iPad or something they can electronically sign, then they're okay. So if they have any questions about how that works, I've got people on the phones ready to answer their questions.
Excellent. And I know that we would also ask or put out a huge thank you to your team again, but also ask everyone, be patient. Your team is, you can't ramp up and double your staff just for an election. They're trying to do their job right. And obviously there's some stressful days ahead. So if everybody kind of just thinks through their opportunities to vote, as well as being patient with the teams, whether it be calling you all or in line, I'm sure, as well as dealing with the volunteers who put their time on the line to work the actual polls themselves. So I'm sure you would agree with that.
A shout out to my staff and the volunteers. I have a great crew of people here who are every day coming early to put together the ballot packets so that we can get them in the mail as quickly that afternoon. That gives them the maximum amount of time that they're out to the world so that they have time to review them, read them, and get them back to us. My staff, normally I have 3 people in voters. I now have 7 people on the phone, and I have 10 people in the basement basically putting together packets. Starting next week, I'm going to have a whole new set of people who are doing early voting and independence. So it's been interesting coordinating all this. I really do ask for everyone's patience and I really appreciate the cooperation that the fiscal court has done with me so that I can make this work for the citizens of Kenton County. So thank you very much. And special thank you to Miss Sarah for helping me get all those beautiful graphics together. Truly appreciate it.
You bet. Well, cooperation makes it all work. So thanks for the hard work, Gabe. And here's to a successful cooperative election. So thanks so much for all your work.
And thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it.